I have a thumbs up. I have a couple of nods. How's it going? I want to know, like, did anybody come further across the world than I did? Possibly. Not you. I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, in the United States, like the middle of North America. Maybe. I think it depends on which way you...
And like travel time is like...
Yeah.
Similar, isn't it?
Yeah. Somebody was telling me it took them 11 hours to get from X place to Y place. And for me, my flight from Dallas to Sydney was 16 hours with no Wi-Fi across the ocean. I was upset. But anywho, thank you all for coming to come see my talk. I'm really excited about delivering this to you all. I'm a pretty passionate person about the code review process and how it is beneficial not just to the person getting their code reviewed or the person doing the review in particular. It's beneficial to your entire team. And I'm sure that we're all used to seeing the people that hate it or they absolutely love it. I'm in the loving category myself. I don't necessarily hate it unless I'm the only one doing it. Then I hate it. But we are going to talk about benefits of code review, ways to get better at doing code review, and ways to get better at getting your teams to do code review. Welcome to day two-ish of NDC Melbourne. Show of hands first, because I like to make sure that I need to be close enough to my clicker, apparently. It said no, thank you. Again. Let's try turning it off and turning it on. There we go. So a show of hands. The first thing I like to do is try to get a gauge of who all I have in the room. How many people write code with other people? Oh, great. How many people write code just by themselves? Sometimes. Okay, so for your solo coding, this might not necessarily be the best use of your time. However, if you ever do also code with other people, this is going to be a great use of your time, I promise. Do I have, let's talk about levels. Entry level, we'll say like 1-2 years of experience in here. Cool, welcome. These are fun things to attend. Mid-ish, so I'm gonna say more than 2 years to like 5, 7, 8-ish. Great. Senior, or excellent, and executive more so like you're like way up here. Hey, come on, Liz, I love to see it. I love to see it. Awesome sauce. So a little bit about me. My name is Rhia. I also go by Riri. I am the fake Riri on most social media because the real Riri was taken when I was making my Twitter. I am a technical architect at a company called VML. We actually have a VML Melbourne office, a VML Commerce office here, and I believe that we also have offices in Auckland, New Zealand. So we're around. We are a global branding and marketing agency, and I lead one of the very many technical teams that work on several Fortune 500 clients, global enterprise. I would think like, major companies that are around the world like Coca-Cola. We build the things that they want to use to market. So that would be like, my teams do websites and mobile apps, but we also do a whole lot of other work for our clients. Sometimes it's DevOps, sometimes it's just delivery. It just depends on what it is that their needs are. I am also a member of Kansas City Women in Tech, and our mission is to just encourage more women and children from underrepresented communities to get into these fields, because there's not always this many women in one of my conference talks, I promise. I'm excited. I'm just excited to see everybody. And I'm also your resident code review queen for the duration of today, but also in case you need me later, please come ask questions. So of the people that said that they do write code with other people and they do write code by themselves, I'm going to guess y'all all review code? Everybody? Okay, cool. On your teams, are you the only person that reviews the code? Like, are you a team lead and you're the only reviewer? Oh, great. I see several shakes. Y'all are already ahead of the game. Awesome sauce. I think that honestly everyone should do it. Every single person that writes code should be reviewing code. My personal quote for the day. If you write code, you should review code. I think that often people see it as a time suck. They see it as a way to get scrutinized, and I think that often they take it personal, and several times people have run into severely bad experiences with the code review process. There are also several different types of code review, and I want to set the level that what it is that I'm talking about today is the actual code going into a version code base pull request, also heard it called a merge request process. That's what I'm talking about today. I will mention group code reviews, and I will mention a few other methods that people use for reviewing code, like the group code review, pair programming, mob programming, but those are not necessarily the focus of this talk. For code review, thinking about what it is and what it is not. I would like to run down a couple of items, see if maybe you've heard any of these before about what people think code review is. By people, I just mean not me's. So they think that it's for code owners and team leads to do by themselves. Have you met any of those that think that that's the way?
Sure, but they didn't tell me.
They didn't tell you? Yeah, I sure have, but they didn't tell me. Some folks think that code review is supposed to be focused on the developers. They think that it's about the quantity of the eyes. I don't need any more code review. There were 2 of us doing it. We're good. And they think it's an optional process. I don't feel like doing code reviews. I'm just going to commit, merge, and let's move along. I don't have enough time for this. Personally, I think that code review is for all of us, and it is by all of us. It is booa. And instead of being focused on developers, I believe that it should be focused on the solution at hand. No one wants to be the person getting their code picked apart at the time, but also it shouldn't necessarily feel like it's a personal attack. Have you ever witnessed or been the person that is being attacked on a code review? It's high-key not the funnest thing in the world. Not the funnest thing in the world at all. Have you witnessed other people being belittled or ignored on pull requests? Just ignored, whole out ignored. I also think that that's not the best use of the tool. Once upon a time, I was writing code with a group of people, and one of the developers, I want to say this is probably the team lead at the time, or the number 2 in command at the time, we're writing code, and I noticed something. I was more junior. I want to say this is probably, I don't know, several years ago. We're going to say it was probably year 2 for me. Or year 1 at the current company. There we go, year 1 at the current company, so not quite year 2. The thing that I noticed in the pull request was we're writing Java, and we were doing null checks. And so usually, a null check, well, I say usually, depends on what language. But in the code base previously, the null checks were always written if this variable equals null. So if thing X equals null, do a thing, right? And what I noticed in the pull request was that the developer had written if null equals variable X. And I was like, well, that seems to me, I was new to the team, new to the company at the time. I'm like, that just doesn't match the pattern to me. And so I asked the question, hey, why did we write it like this? Can we, make it flip these around and look the other way? My good friend, the question is open. I got no response. The pull request was merged. Nothing happened. No, he didn't even slack me on the side, y'all. He didn't even hit me in the email, didn't come to my desk, none of that. Just closed it, didn't say anything. I was like, well, maybe it really had to get in. And so, left the open question. Then the very next pull request that was open, we'll say that it was line 21. Line 21, if null equals some variable X, do a thing. I kid you not, 2 files later, Matter of fact, it wasn't even 2 files later. It was probably like 10 lines later. If variable x equals null. And I was like, hold on. Can we at least pick a way? I'm not going to bug you about it too much, but this is, now it's not even consistent. And these are new lines of code. It's not like we were appending to something that was already there. These are new lines of code. You wrote these 12 lines. And so I asked again, hey, can we flip these variables around and make it look consistent? This time, my good friend, he did not just dismiss my comment. Instead, what happened this time was, so you asked about this on the last pull request. I saw the question, and I didn't even give it the time of day to think about it and answer it, but clearly we need to talk about it because you brought it up again. Sir, why? Why the tone? Why the attitude? Like, I felt attacked just in that first part before he even explained anything. And the explanation that I got was that if I cared about it bad enough, I could fix it with a linter. And I'm like, why would I want to go back and fix it with the linter when you already got the code checked out? We can just flip it. And there was no supporting conversation about it. That was it. Closed the comment with that. I didn't get to have any discussion back or anything. And I went to go do research. So I did find out that there is this cool thing called Yoda code that is a way of coding so that you cannot reset your variables by accidentally, resetting them to null. However, that's not the case here. This was Java. It wasn't that particular language. So instead, what I did, I asked about it later in a one-on-one with him. Turns out that he just was more interested in JavaScript than he was in Java and didn't know why he did it that way, and just did, and was like, okay, well, great. I'm glad that we had this conversation. But in that moment, I had felt pretty belittled, pretty ridiculed, pretty bad. I'm like, why would we just leave these open questions, and then why would you point me to a linter right now when we have the code open right now? So I thought that was a pretty interesting scenario with this person. After we ended up talking it out and finding things out together, he did end up starting to go back and write consistently because I pointed out consistency for especially somebody new like me that was new to the team. If you want me to go and find these null checks ever again, I'm gonna miss these 2 in particular because they don't look like anything else in the code base. And if I'm going to miss them and I know about them, when the next person rolls on the team who doesn't know about them, they're not gonna be able to find them either. But that was how we got that conversation back on track. I also think that it's not about the quantity of the eyes that are on your code in your code base, it's about the context that those eyes have. How often do you find that someone changes something globally that should have been scoped to something specifically instead of affecting the global use method or the global use styles? It happens frequently, actually, very, very frequently. And the argument that we are often met with is, well, I paired with such and so that's enough eyes. I'm like, well, we'll call such and such, I don't know, a name that's not gonna be someone's name. We're gonna call them, I'm sorry to anyone whose name starts with the letter J. So, J felt that having a pair programming partner was the way to avoid having to do code reviews. However, J pairing up with C wasn't quite enough because J and C were both new to the team. They had no idea what else they were touching in the code base. And they didn't do code reviews. They didn't like doing code reviews. So we ended up pushing through some code. By we, I mean the team. I wasn't there that day because I would have probably said something like, hey, we should probably not do this today because that's broken. But it was a learning experience, and it came down to the fact that they just didn't realize how many things that this thing touched, how many things that this particular change was going to break and fix. So having the context of those, having the context reviewing is a major key. So let's say that if I am a front-end developer, sometimes I am, I would review front-end code, but I'm also going to review the back-end code. And I think that back-end developers should also, if your stuff is working, if you're in the same repository with your front-end code, I think that you should go and look at how people want to use your back-end code. it's helpful so that we can figure out how not to mess things up. I also think that code review is a very essential process to your software development lifecycle, and we will get into more ways as to why now. So for me, DevOps, I recognize patterns. And the pattern to me is that code review is the DevOps process, or at the very least, it is promoting the DevOps process. With code review, you get visibility, you get quality, you get speed, you get your resilience in your systems, you get collaboration, and you get continuous improvement. All of this you are doing through code review. Your PR request, having that conversation on the PR, all of that matters, and all of that is driving you faster and faster towards your deliverables. And if you don't include a review type process, you are putting your project at risk of not meeting delivery, at risk of being extremely defective, and at risk of breaking things that have already been shipped. I'm trying to help us avoid that. So we'll talk about some of the benefits and ways to practice those benefits. One of the benefits of code review to me is collaborative learning experiences. I find that I have rapid onboarding, I get knowledge sharing, and reinforcement of standards that are either industry-wide or company-wide. I would say best practices, but who's the determining factor of best? I also happen to have a degree in physics, and the one thing that I loved about quantum was that I didn't understand crap about quantum, except for the theories of relativity, and that they apply not just in space. Everything is relative. Every single thing you do is relative. Every change we make, every new tech stack that we want to introduce, every single way that you architect a project, there is some level of trade-off, and I'm going to pick my way because my relative context says I should, or at least I think it should. And I think that you can do development of other professional skills like pattern recognition. I do it naturally, but it is a skill that you can hone, but you have to practice pattern recognition. So for as far as rapid onboarding with pull requests, I told you I work at VML. It's a global branding and marketing agency. Keep that in mind. How often those who have, wherever my mid-level senior people, how long on average do you think that it takes for a developer who is new to the team, whether they're new to development, new to the team, new to the project, new to the tech stack, how long on average do you think it takes them to get comfortable in a code base, comfortable enough to start breaking things and fixing things on their own?
3 months.
I heard 3 months, 3 months?
8 weeks.
8 weeks? Oh, girl. I love it.
6 months at least.
6 months at least?
1 year.
1 year. On average, it takes about 6 to 8 months for a developer to feel comfortable enough in a code base to get in there and start breaking things. The first 3 to 6 months, they are still very much in ramp-up mode, still drinking from the fire hose, still trying to learn their way around, and depending on how great their team and their documentation may or may not be, that's what that time average is looking like for a lot of people. I got that stat from, dagnabbit. I know where I got the stat from. It'll come to me later. It'll come to me later, ask me after the conference, and I will be able to track it down for you. But I work at this global marketing agency. Our contracts are usually done in 3 to 6 month scopes. Guess who doesn't have time to take 6 to 8 months to get comfortable in the code base? Me and my team. And so what I use to my benefit is the pull request code review process. I might not be writing 50,000 lines of code myself, but I do try to keep my eyes on as much code as possible. The things that are the points of pain. If you're looking for an open source project or something to contribute, the points of pain and the issues at hand, the brand new features, the shiny new problems, those are the things that we have submitted pull requests for. They are the things that might still have issues open. All of your incoming work, right? So I'm reading the code to see what's new, where it's going, what are we working on? Are people refactoring things? Are we creating helpers? It's gonna be there in your pull request. All the other code that's already there is immediately legacy. It's already in the code base. It's legacy, and hopefully it's well documented. But the new stuff is where we need to know where things live. And not everyone pipes up and says, hey, look, I made this shiny helper function for you. You don't have to do that ridiculous process we were doing 30 times anymore. You can use this shiny new box, and it will magically do it for you. And then the very next 2 pull requests, no one's using your shiny box. Right? So I learned where all the boxes are so then I can point them out to people and let them know where they are. Ways to practice your collaborative learning experience and the knowledge sharing, because anybody heard of XP? Extreme programming? High-key love XP. I love XP. There are different parts of it that I think are very well suited to most teams, and I think that there are some that are probably a little bit more well suited to a smaller team. I had a team of, I was on a team of about 15 developers. 12 of them were rotational seats for that team. And they were what I would call hardcore XP. Very, very hardcore XP. They weren't doing pull requests at the time, and they were adamantly against introducing them at all because they would slow us down, and we needed to ship to deadlines that did not truly exist. This was an internal team. We were creating like a service experience, and all of the decisions that are made up front were super duper fast and did not have any vetting. This wasn't a problem when the team had about 5 people. We could pair up, like pair programming was the norm. Like we paired all day, every day. No one was coding alone. You did not introduce code into the code base alone. When I said there were about 5 people and we were rotating, it worked out great. As soon as we got to 10 people, matter of fact, I want to say it was probably 7. And the teams were a little bit more siloed even within their pair groups. We weren't sharing the knowledge transfer wasn't happening, even though they said, well, we're pairing, we're sharing. And I'm like, when's the last time Susie paired with Jake? It's been a month since Susie paired with Jake. There's no way they were sharing knowledge. There's no way they were. And when we changed managers, our management team was like, well, clearly we're not sharing any knowledge. We're not pairing. We need to introduce something else to the process. They're like, well, we can mob program. And now there'll be 3 to 4 of us in the mob programming. I would argue your mob probably shouldn't be any bigger than about 3 people, maybe 4, but definitely not 3 people. You need a driver, you need a navigator, and hopefully the other person is helping in some sort of way so that they're not just zoning out, but that's the 3, right? If you get to 6 and we're all waiting on a turn, who's not helping? Persons 4 and 5 and 6 most likely are not they're not even checked in. They're getting no knowledge out of this. So with that, we did start doing like an experiment for introducing pull requests. And one of the things that we talked about doing for the knowledge share was engaging in conversations on the PR itself. I think that all of your communication should be right there where the code is happening. If I have a question about it, I'm going to ask a question about it. I don't know what it does. Hey, hi, what does this thing do? I think that it does this, but I'm not sure. What does this do? You're introducing something like a new third-party library. I don't understand why we're introducing this third-party library. I will ask a question. Or if I see that you didn't use the helper function, hey, did you know that this helper function exists? You know, did you have trouble finding it? Did you have trouble using it? Let's talk about it. Or I just want to know, how did you create this cool solution? I would have done it a little bit differently, but I want to know your thought process. So I ask a question. There are other things that might happen on that pull request where, you know, I look at it and I'm like, nah, we definitely want to use the helper function that we made, that we poured all this time and money into. Please use the helper function. I'm going to request a change. It might be a suggestion sometimes, and sometimes it might be a, no, go ahead and change this, and then we'll get you approved. And then there are the times where things are complete, like showstoppers and blockers. And when they are blockers, that's another type of change request. Like your PR is not going in, right? And sometimes it's just leaving a comment. So I want Sally to know that Roger's new PR, like, hey, this thing that they're building right now, the ticket that's coming up in our roadmap down the way, you're gonna wanna come back to this. This is part 1 or 2. We're gonna need to work well with this piece. Just leaving a comment. Y'all ever like looked at conversations on GitHub though? And you can't tell whether it's a question or a comment. Do I have to make this change? And especially if you're like newer to the team and somebody more senior says, hey, we should probably change this. And you're like, okay, I'm gonna change it. I would like for you to know that you are not obligated to change most of anything. Just because they suggested it to you does not mean that you have to go forward with it. Honestly, I would argue that if you have created your code, you shouldn't necessarily be married to your code, but you should be able to defend how and why you built it. And so if someone says, hey, come change this, and you can't identify a reason why their way is better, ask a question. Right there on that PR, right there where they ask for the change, like, hey, I acknowledge that I saw the change. This is what I did. This is my thought process that led me here. How is this new implementation going to be, I was like, what's the benefit of the new implementation? They could tell you a slew of things. And at that point, y'all have the conversation, hash it out. Maybe they didn't know what you already tried. Maybe you didn't know about the constraints of the system. It's possible. So having that conversation right there to me is very important, and I think that we should signify them with things called contextual comments, context adding brackets. So when I ask a question on a PR, I literally write brackets, square brackets, and all caps question. It's very clear that everything coming after that bracket is a question. And it's going to result in you hopefully giving me an answer, because I have put rules into my code base that don't let you not resolve questions and comments. Questions. So for the change requests, we have blockers, just suggestions, and nits. I don't use all of these, but these are some that I have seen. So I will use blocker to indicate that this PR is not moving forward until this change happens, or that this can't go into the code base this way because it's breaking something or it's introducing something that's dangerous to our deliverable. I'll use blocker. Have I blocked PR? Sure have. Have I closed them? Sure have. I've completely rejected pull requests before because they were such blockers to the code base, but I try to give the developer time to ask more questions before I just reject. I haven't flat out rejected anyone's PR in a while. Unless they unless they open up more PRs than they actually review. Yes.
Come back to the idea that code review is by everybody.
Yes.
Is the ability to block a PR something that you would encourage? Would you want to see your juniors blocking PRs?
If they notice that something is going against the architectural decisions that have been made for the system, absolutely. If they notice that we are introducing an anti-pattern that we shouldn't, absolutely. If they've been out here on the CVE list watching for vulnerabilities, absolutely. Are we breaking accessibility for front-end code? Please don't let that go in. We can fix it. I think that everyone should be empowered to get in and get active in the code base. It's not your team lead's code base. It's not your code owner's code base, even though they're listed as a code owner. We are all the keepers of the gates. I would like to write code that me, next year might still be okay with. I would like to write code that me in about 6 months can still understand. I would like to write code that me tomorrow can come back and say, oh yeah, that's where that went in, and we can, if I need to undo something, I know exactly where it is. Or these are the types of code bases that I want to maintain. I don't know, maybe I'm mistaken. Do y'all like spaghetti code?
Oh, yeah.
You like unwinding the ball of yarn every single day? Okay, I didn't think so. We can help create the code that we would be proud and be happy to maintain. I don't want to introduce anything into my system that I don't feel like maintaining later. And I don't want to be burdened by someone who just pushes code, and they're not helping review the code. It is a take a penny, leave a penny kind of process over here. And I will stop letting people merge code into the code base if they're not actually contributing in a constructive way to the rest of the code base. So yes, juniors can block PRs, juniors can ask questions. By all means, I invite them, I tag them to my PRs. Because I learned React before React had hooks. And then my first tech job was C#.net. By the time I came back to React at my current role, baby girl had grown up, she went to college, she had kids. I was like, what are hooks? And so that means that whoever came out of school most recently, they know way more about the hidden inner working mechanisms of React than I do. I'm a little bit more familiar with the shiny new hotness in Java. But if you see that I'm doing something and there's a better way and it's supported by all the browsers, please tell me. How many times have you tried to, the task is to make a box, and instead of just making said box, you've made the lid for the box, you decided that you need to automate the creasing of the box, you need to actually figure out if you can change the colors by, on demand of the box. The more senior you get, the easier it is to over-engineer a thing because we are thinking up here. And so when my more junior dev comes up to me and says, well, why didn't we just create the box? And I'm like, you know what? You're absolutely right. We should just create the box. Thank you for pointing that out to me. I don't know why I went the roundabout way. But there is power in someone, a fresh set of eyes, having a different take on the code that you are creating and helping you find a better way to create it. The last thing that I put for my contextual comments is literally the comment. And this has helped to make the conversations more productive on our pull requests for my teams. They have the context up front, they know what they are required to do based upon the context of whatever the comment was, and we get through them. Another one of my favorite things, like I said, this is DevOps, and we talk about illities. There are so many different illities and quality that you can catch up front by doing code reviews. With the quality building, like with the consistent code review, you are helping your team to understand what quality code might look like as far as what it looks like in relation to your project in this code base right now. I think that you should I think quality is also relative to a certain extent. Our practices and processes are usually beholden to the constraints of the tech stacks that we are bound to. Sometimes we choose those tech stacks and sometimes they are chosen for us. But trying to play around in the constraints of your box, quality and consistent illities, we get applicability, like does this change actually apply to the task that was generated in my Jira ticket or however it is that everyone else gets their work? Is the code that was written readable? Can I figure out what it does? Is it flexible enough, but not so flexible that you aren't gonna need it? And I don't wanna create things that I'm not going to need if I don't know that I actually need them. Is it searchable? Like the null checks. Is it testable? Has it been tested? Most code probably should be tested. Not all code gets tested. Oftentimes, I don't know how about y'all, but I run into code that has 0 tests. And so that means that I'm tasked with testing or putting in place the testing implementation. Accessibility. I'm looking for the things that I know that we can do. Like, did we use semantic HTML? Did you hide my focus ring? Did you turn it off? Did you apply focus to something that shouldn't have it? Those kinds of things are what we're looking for, things that you can kind of catch through the code review process, and things that you can coach through the code review process. And the more that you do it, the more consistent you're going to be. So what we practice is looking for those illities. Simply by running through and asking a list of questions as I'm going through the pull request. I'm looking at what does it do? Do the names make sense? Have any of you ever seen something like, Optimus Prime does the thing? Like literally that was one of the method calls. Optimus Prime does the thing. And I was like, that's clever for about 2 days. Because when someone else comes back, do they know that Optimus Prime is a transformer? What is the thing that he's transforming? I have to figure it out by whatever gets passed in, or can he transform anything? So do the names make sense? I'm in favor of having something that's more descriptive. I'd rather you give me a sentence than a letter because I want to know what are we doing here. Is it following your standards? Are we breaking things? That happens often, especially if you happen to write any front-end code or things that need to work with other people's things. If you write services that need to rely on other services and integrations that need to rely on other data entry points, it is very possible that things have broken. It's so easy to break everything by changing a number to a string. Like, why would we do that? Or changing true to quote unquote true. I didn't realize how bad it could be until I ran across it. And I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. And is it a new wheel? This is another benefit of your code review. How many, my mid-seniors, y'all have sometimes arbitrary deadlines, sometimes hard deadlines, hard and fast deadlines. Time to delivery for your code, for your products will get faster the longer that you do your code review process. If you don't have code reviews happening right now and you're implementing the process or you're trying to work on getting your team up to speed, this is one of the ways that you can end up pressing your team because their time to delivery is going to get faster. How? Why? Well, if we're all looking at the code together, we're all doing the different code reviews and we're all asking questions. One, everybody has eyes on the code now. We've all somehow become keepers of the gate. Everyone knows where to go and find something, even if they don't remember today that they saw it today. Someone hopefully on the team saw it today, and they can say, hey, you remember that thing that we did last week? Let's move. Getting your team in line with the industry standards. So I end up with a team, like right now my team runs the gamut. I have a couple of devs that are more junior. I have a couple that are pretty mid-level. I have one that's like, he's been in this game longer than I have. And with all of that experience and where their experiences lie and diverge, everyone has their own opinions. We're starting to build consistency and building the consistency in the code base, giving us the blocks that you can model to how we would like to build constructors for this repository, how we would like to apply styles for this project, how we would like to write our component names. Everyone starts falling in line. And then when my new team members roll on in 2 months, I don't have to teach them because I have created 6 little me's. 6 little me's to handle that for me. And because it is their code base and they have now taken ownership of the code base, they're not letting trash in the gate either, if they can help it. Not if they can help it. So you get fewer defects and regressions when you do it this way because we can catch them up front. For one of my developers, their preferred method of catching defects is to just push the code and go test it in dev and see what breaks. I mean, that's all fine and dandy when it's just you, but I have to use dev too. I would like to be able to test my code, and I can't test my code if you broke my environment, our environment. So ways to practice. One of the things that I say that is helpful for getting your consistent quality, the things for helping you get this consistency and getting your time to delivery down. How many times have we seen your IDE underlines, hey, there's 57 lines of duplicated code. Or maybe it's more than 57 lines of duplicated code. And by the time that you click on it to find out where all that duplication has happened, you see that it's across your code base in 9 to 20 areas. We would like to not create new wheels if we don't need to. The wheel has already been created. Maybe we need to now think about extracting this function away. So this would be an opportunity for deduplication. And I would also suggest refactoring as a group. Like, instead of letting someone take on the refactoring task on their own within the scope of their ticket, because that's how we got down the rabbit hole of refactoring regrets, when a 3 all of a sudden turns into an 8 because we were trying to make the code better, and it just got away from us. It happens. I would say refactor as a group. That's a way that we can help each other figure out better ways to do something. Not everyone is comfortable with refactoring. I think that it's a great skill that a developer should develop. It's a professional development opportunity. And explicitly call out all of your new boxes, all of your new helpers, all of the new functions. Find out, give us where they live, how they work. And on the code review, while you're doing the code review, if you find an opportunity that said, hey, I'm not using this new link that we should be using, I'm not using the new container that we should be using, I would expect that that person would let me know. That they would let me know on the code, in the code base, but also link me to where it lives. I might not have known that it even existed. Give me the breadcrumbs so that I know how to get there. I can find it in the code base and I can build the muscle memory, not just you copying the appropriate code to write so that I can just press the commit here in the code base. I'm against that too. It's a lovely feature, don't do that. Don't do that. It doesn't like rerun your test. It doesn't tell you, it might not put in all your formatting appropriately. Don't do that. Please go back and add the code yourself. So these are reasons why people think that they cannot review code. I get that you're new to this. That's understandable. You should be reviewing the code, absolutely, because you're new to this. You're learning. I'm a front-end developer. This is back-end code. If you are calling the API integration in the front end for that back-end code, you should probably go take a look at how it works. Same thing for my back-end developers. If you are writing this service in servlet and it lives in the same place as the front-end code that's going to require it, I would argue you should probably take a look at it. I'm not saying that you're a Java developer and you now have to go understand React, but if the code that is trying to integrate with your service or servlet is being pushed, I'm expecting you to take a look at it and make sure that everything looks okay. And if they're running into a problem, you can identify it sooner. Like, oh yes, I know that they're going to need for this particular piece of data to be transformed. Is it something that we can handle on the back end? Maybe. Or would we rather them do it themselves on the front end? I would rather get all my data to me in the call and not have to do any transformation to it whatsoever personally, but that's me. Or we don't have time. We don't have time is often the case. The time to deliver a particular feature, a particular component, does not stop when that code gets merged. It doesn't stop when that code gets merged. It stops when that code has been merged and deployed and has successfully not broken anything else. Because if it goes into the code base and it breaks any of the environments, it breaks any other component, it breaks the JavaScript on the page when it's loaded with something else, that is no longer, its clock didn't stop. It became a regression directly tied to that particular feature. How long does it take to fix that regression? Depends. How far did it make it up in the environments? If it was started in dev and it made it all the way to prod and there's like 3 other stages before prod, we have a serious problem. We have a serious problem. And all of that time, I know that one of the client teams that I've worked on, their time to prod, there's like 4 weeks by the time that they start hitting the let me take this up a level because of all of their testing that happens on various levels. And it's still possible to miss something because, yeah, it's QA, it kind of looks like prod, but guess what? It's not prod. It's UAT or staging. It looks a lot like prod, but it still is not prod. And if prod happens to be in the United States and we still need to open something up in China, guess what? Staging really doesn't look like prod at all. And we can't get behind the firewall until we get to production. So these types of regressions, I don't think that they start a new defect ticket. This is extending the time of the original feature. So if we can fix it up front, if I see it go into the code base wrong and I call it out and we correct it, hey, we have delivered a high quality deliverable the first time around. We got it as good as we could get it. So this is my response to all of those. Just no. Because if we write code, what should we do? What should we be doing? If you write code, I can't hear you.
Read code.
Read code. Review the code. If you are writing code in the code base, you should be reviewing the code. Thank you very much. I wish I had stickers to give to you. So the question is, how do we get better? I'm so glad you asked. There's a process. The The way to get better is practice, 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 but I think that there is a process for getting better. So you should develop your process. Your process and my process are not gonna be the same. They're gonna have different applicable states. I think that you should invite critique. I think that as senior developers, mid-level developers, if you have someone under you, invite them to critique your code. Why? Weren't you nervous year one? Weren't you nervous year two? I mean, I'm nervous like week one, week two of the new jobs still. Still a little nervous. So I would say invite the critique. Invite them to come, tag them directly. Celebrate progress because, hey, if we weren't doing it before and we're doing it now, or we weren't doing it well before and we're doing it better now, I'm here for celebrating all of your wins, and it's a way to make it fun for your team. Embrace automation. I don't mean like full on like this, I mean like a side hug. I mean a side hug. We'll get to that one. And revise the process. I don't think that any processes we should be married to till death do us part. I think that we should remain with those processes until we identify ways that are better and then improve our processes. As far as my process, I'm gonna try to go through it really quickly, so we'll see. Pre-check it. By pre-check, I mean review the PR template and ticket. GitHub has PR templates. I have links in here to GitHub's PR template process and example templates. Those templates, what are they doing? They're providing context of the change at hand. If you are a lead developer, I can pretty much guarantee that every time you open a new PR, you have to physically reset yourself so that you understand the change at hand. And what I hate to see is code getting pushed and no one's put a description. Like, please help me help you. The description can be put in there, the ticket number can be put in there. You can write a checklist for your devs. So if there's a list of testing that needs to be done, specifically for me, there's like front-end testing. I wanna know that we tested in all of the browsers that we support at all of the breakpoints that we support and that we haven't broken accessibility. Did you run a lighthouse scan? Please do, please do. And so that template is helpful. The other thing is to start asking those questions. Is this solution that they are providing an answer to that problem? I'm also looking at the size of the change. When I build a custom component in Adobe Experience Manager, it's the backing is Java Sling models. When I'm building a custom component, I know that it takes me somewhere between 11 to 17 files. If I'm building the front end and the back end, the front of the back of the front, for that particular component. I shouldn't see anything larger than 11 to 17 files. If I see something that comes through the door at 72, why? Why do you have 72 files? What are we doing? Now we're introducing some level of scope creep because I guarantee that files 18 to 72 were out of scope for this particular change you said you were changing. And so why is that a problem? It becomes a problem because my downstream teams still need to be able to do their thing. If we're doing regression testing, why would they go back and regression test this particular thing? Or maybe they should focus on this particular thing. Like, I'm not even looking for whatever it was that you changed in file 72. No one knows it's going to be broken. So I like smaller PRs. So I look for things that, how many files have changed and are those files changed in scope? Usually they're not. And I don't want them to just throw away their work, but I would like for them to move it to another pull request. Go write a ticket. Go write a ticket. That way we know what's changing, we can test what's changing and track it, track that change through time. The other thing that I would like to say is, you want to go through your PR and read it. Look at those small changes first, lean into your areas of expertise. Yes, I identify as a more back-end heavy dev than front-end, but I know enough front-end code to be dangerous, and I will lean into my areas of expertise, the things that have proven to provide me pain. I lean into those things, and I look for those, and I check for the illities. Is there anything that I'm breaking with this change? And then I ask questions if I have them. The next step, I build it. If I have enough time to build it, sometimes I don't have enough time to build it. Things like Netlify are awesome because they give you a nice deployed preview of your code update, but that only works if you've set it up correctly and that you're testing it against the environment that looks most like all the rest of the code. But I try to build it. Pull it down. Can I build the branch locally? Sometimes I can't. Fun fact, If you are not in the same time zone as your cloud environment, your center, like, who is it? The data centers for like AWS, like they have central region and some other regions. There was code that was working just fine for everybody in Detroit, Michigan. I plugged the code and I'm trying to run it locally. And we had date pickers and times, like, we're trying to do service-based things. You're trying to book a reservation. I can't book a reservation to save my life because it keeps on putting me on the day before today. Because the particular culprit was, we were getting the date and time and then we're setting it to the beginning of the day, which is midnight. Midnight Eastern time is not the same day as midnight Central time. So I could never book an appointment and they couldn't figure out for the life of us what was the problem. But working in different time zones and pulling down the code to try to test it worked. Does it work? Does it impact anything else? And can you break it? Well, yeah, I broke it. I broke it. But it led to great discussion and it led to a better solution going out the gate. This is the part that I think folks struggle with. Pushing the button that says, I approve what I have seen in this PR. Just because you approve it doesn't mean that anyone else that reviews it that doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to find a flaw in the code. And just because you approved it and you didn't see the flaw is not indicative of you doing a poor code review. You didn't see it. If you're new to this game, new to this team, they know you're new to this team. The people that hired you know when you got out of school. They know how long you've been doing this. At some point, you have to give yourself a little bit of grace. It's okay to push the button because you didn't find anything with it, but you read it, you looked, you asked your questions if you needed to. And if you didn't, you're like, yes, I approve this. It is so regular for there to be someone that approves a PR and then someone that comes back like, hey, by the way, we actually need to change this, which is awesome because they had a little bit more context. So do not let that particular fear stop you from saying, I approve. One of the ways that we can bake this in and one of the ways that we do it at my company for our teams is we put in place that rule, right? Like you have to have at least 2 approvers and one of them has to be a code owner. We have a list of code owners because I don't want to be the only code owner. I like to go on vacation. I'm going to use this PTO. But putting that particular gate in place means that it doesn't matter if you press the button if one of the code owners hasn't seen it yet. And I would like for most of my code owners to hold off on their review until at least one other person has reviewed. That keeps us from being the only people reviewing all the time. At one point, I was one of like 3 code owners. And so I wouldn't look until someone else did. Or I might have looked, but I'm not leaving my review right there. I still have my notes. But I would like for someone else to take a look at the code first. I don't want to taint or tarnish what it is, their code review experience, by them seeing what I saw. I'm different. I'm different. So if it looks good to you, approve it. I say inspiration and celebration because these are reasons, but I like things to try out, right? So things to try in order to do a little bit better in your code reviews and get a little bit better, update your team norms. Have the expectation, not that we're going to do code review. We wrote it down in our norms. No, we're going to unblock our team at the beginning of the day. When I start my day, I don't have to do any context switching. I'm starting from scratch. I haven't even touched the code base yet. I'm probably about to go to stand-up. And then I do my code review. I sit down and whatever's open, I go through and go look at it in the morning. If I have time throughout the day, like a break, like if I push some code or I'm in between calls because now I don't get to write as much code as I used to, I will go in and start reviewing code throughout the day. But I think updating your norms and actually updating how you think about code review, thinking about the fact that we want to all be on the same team, that we all have the same goal of getting this thing to delivered as well as we possibly can in the time given. Update the team norms. We're unblocking our team. No one wants to be the blocker. I don't want you to be relying upon me I don't want to be your bottleneck. So specifically tag your team members. We talked about that a little earlier. I also do a thing called office hours where I have a time frame that I sit down and I do code reviews and I just talk out loud. It's an open meeting. You can come join me on Teams and I just talk as I'm going through and reviewing my code. So I talk, okay, we're looking at this ticket. There's the link, let me pop this open. Okay, this is the change that we're looking for. This is the change that they're describing. It looks like we've met all of our accessibility requirements and tests. They took screenshots, excellent. Now I can go start reviewing the code. I like to read my code from the bottom up, kind of like how I would if I write a paper. Because if I'm reading it straight through, it's very easy for me to fill in the blanks, if there are blanks. But I like to read mine from the bottom up. Your process for review is gonna be different than my process. But I like to walk through my process so they can at least see the kind of things that I'm looking at and looking for. And it's not as scary once you see someone else do it. I also like to have group code reviews and demo days. A group code review is like, maybe there's a site called What's Wrong With This Code? And it's it's a very interesting exercise for like a group like learning day. And we just go and look at these interesting code snippets and figure out, is there anything in here, any way to make what was written here better? Identify things that might be wrong and learn together. I like demo days because people like to show off the things that they did new, and that's another way for us to get that knowledge share. And a code review checklist. So I mentioned the checklist. We have breakpoints. We have like your testing that should have been done. Did you include steps to reproduce the change and the fix? My other favorite thing is automating where I can. Automating where I can. So this is my side hug embracing of automation. I know that we've heard of GitHub Copilot. It's not necessarily my favorite tool. Sometimes it's in my way. But they do have GitHub Copilot, and GitHub Copilot will help you do some code reviews. My favorite tool, though, that I've run across so far is one called Codo AI. They have Codo Merge, which is a plugin, and it's an AI agent. What I like about it is that I get most of the same benefits that I get with GitHub, but I also get configurability. So I can make it a little bit smarter. I can give it more context by introducing which repos I want it to actually look at, because one of the things that I find that is hard to do is to accept all of these changes because it doesn't know where the other parts of which other repositories in the code base it needs to look at. So it doesn't necessarily make changes and change suggestions that I can do. But Codo AI, they just added that feature. They had to have added it in last year because last year I didn't see that feature. But that's one of the reasons why I like it. Configurability, it will give me a nice summary of the changes happening. It will also let you know of like possible code smells and lines that are not tested. Even in just the Codo Merge product, it will also generate tests for you. I would say vet those. We're not gonna just blindly accept changes from our AI agents, right? Like the same way that you wouldn't copy scripts that you don't know what they do from Stack Overflow in Google. No one's been like copying and pasting those RM-RFs anywhere, dropping tables, right? That's not what we're gonna try to do. We're gonna try to make sure that we at least know what the code is doing. I think that when you're automating the process, you should consider the right size solution for your team. Sometimes, yes, that's getting yourself an agent like a Codo AI or a GitHub Copilot. Sometimes that is getting a plugin in Slack or whatever your method of team communication is. Something, because maybe you have people that will do the code review, they just don't know when the PRs are out there because GitHub gets real noisy when everybody's pushing code. And maybe I'm not listening to my inbox. My inbox just filling up. It's got 578 unopened emails from GitHub notifications. But having something like the plugins can be helpful, especially if it's one of the plugins that can like do the round robin and pick someone to assign the PR to. That's a way to spread the love when folks are struggling to step up to the plate. I say always vet the models that are supported and used because you don't want to get into malicious code, and make sure that you're within the constraints of your company's AI guidelines and policies. Please and thanks. No confidential cross-pollinations and whatnot. I would say favor those configurable solutions and then make adjustments. Not everything is what you need straight out the box. But in case it is, have at it. Use it to your benefit. I have a list of resources here. One of my favorites is at the top, the 10 Commandments of Navigating Code Reviews, because I know it can be challenging getting that feedback on a pull request. I think that that's a great one. It's by Angie Jones. She is a Java guru, test automation goddess. If you ask her, she will help you. She's real cool, real cool people. What's not to like about this code? That's the one that I said what's wrong with this code, but what's not to like about this code is there. Information about rule sets and templates. Also, I linked to Code-O-Merge in case you want to go take a look at it and play with it. I was introduced to something called multitudes.com by one of the speakers here, Liz, and it is another tool that will help figure out, it looks at the data. Who hasn't been reviewing code? Great, you're at the top of the list. You're gonna go review this PR. I kind of like that idea. I haven't tried it out myself, but I put it on the list because I think it's an interesting tool. Other things that can help you out, SonarQube, your pre-commit hooks, your ES linters. These are the things that are gonna make the process easier for you and your team. Yeah, so those are those resources. I'm gonna try to also do our recap real quick. So the code review process. It helps devs learn a code base faster, promotes quality and a healthy code base. You can go faster with less mess ups, and it will make your team a little bit more resilient. You can actually go on vacation, y'all. You can go on vacation. You can use all that lovely PTO and all of those funds that you are earning at your jobs. Go and spend some time with yourself and your family and your friends outside of work, because you aren't the only person that knows where stuff lives anymore. And you can trust that they've been trained up in the way that they should go. You can prevent architectural decay and rework because we can adhere to all of our policies and all of our architectural decision records. And then it's a vital shared responsibility, right? Those are the things about the process and the things for practicing the process. Good gracious, automation and animations, sometimes they're in the way. So you can implement a PR template. I highly recommend implementing a template, keeping all conversations on your PR. Use those contextual comments because it's gonna make it easier for, it's clear communication. Clear communication is way better than fuzzy communication. Just because you said fix it doesn't mean I know what you meant when you said fix or you said it. I don't. Lean into those areas of expertise that you have and those points of pains that you have experienced, because that's gonna help them be better because they don't know. And look for the illities, invite review across all levels of expertise and experience. Whew. If one thing that you take away from here, if you write code, please review the code. Thank you. And I'll take any questions if there are any. What are your questions?
You mentioned at one point when a team got to a certain scale, more programming or pair programming, you would prefer it to take a sort of backseat to code review. Is there ever a point in developing something or fixing a bug where pair programming or programming might become relevant again?
Oh, I didn't say we turned it yet.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So the question is, so I was talking about how pair programming and mob programming can be hard to do at scale with very large teams that are not all talking to each other. And is there a time when, or a place for it to come back? I never let go of the idea of pair programming and mob programming. I think that that's a great way when you are running into an issue and need to debug or you need extra eyes, pair up. I still pair program, but you can do pair programming and mob programming and still have code reviews. They are not mutually exclusive. I don't think that one precludes the other. I think that they have two different purposes. And when folks tell me that, okay, we mobbed on this, we don't need to have code review, I'm like, no, your team mobbed on it. None of these people saw it. And if I was writing a book and trying to edit and publish it, I'm most likely not my own editor. I shouldn't be. Right? Someone else that did not write it should be reviewing it because they will be able to have a different perspective. They are not as close to the code as you are at that point. Anyone else? Don't worry, if you have more questions, you can find me outside. Catch me outside today because tomorrow I'll be headed back across the ocean with no Wi-Fi. All right, y'all. Thank you.